And in a story that I'm sure makes Rob Parker's skin crawl,
I threw up in my mouth 4 times.
There is talk about Tom Brady potentially quarterbacking the Las Vegas Raiders this upcoming season. Here's what's going on. So we all know that the Raiders signed Jimmy Garoppolo as a free agent. But apparently, remember Garoppolo, of course, was injured. And so he's got the foot injury. He failed the physical. And he has to get surgery. The Raiders, while they're saying it's not that big of a deal and they expect him to play, they did go ahead and, Rob, nullify his bonus. He was going to get an $11 million bonus. They made that just a part of the contract. So he got no bonus. And basically, they can move on from him if he doesn't play for him, if he's not healthy enough.
Who examined him when he got signed?
Well, they know he failed the physical, and they decided to keep him in anyway, as long as they could essentially waive the bonus and potentially the whole contract, because he got surgery after he was signed.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, the whole thing they shouldn't have to rescind anything. If they had done their due diligence, Chris, it was not about.
Well, Rob G, what was he took the physical, right?
Rob G, help me out with this, because it doesn't make sense. If they knew all this beforehand, why wasn't the contract written that way?
Right. We've known for a while now that his foot's been messed up.
Right.
And so
we do know that. They
were under the impression, the way it reads, they were under the impression before he signed that his injury was something different. And that he was going to be able to heal normally, and then he'd be just fine for OTAs.
Where's the doctor, though, Rob G?
When do they take the physical? They didn't take that apparently before he signed, correct?
Exactly.
That's ridiculous.
That ain't on the doctor. That's on the organization.
Yeah, that's on the organization and them not, crossing all their T's, dotting all their I's, because he did get surgery after the season and after he ultimately agreed to the contract, which is why he's going to be missing all of OTAs, at least the start of training camp, and then we'll see if it's more than that, which could lead to the contract being voided altogether.
So of course, Tom Brady is attempting to buy into the Raiders. Now he's kind of bought in, but he's waiting to get approval from all the owners. So now this comes up because the Raiders backups, it's the kid they drafted this year, and Brian Hoyer. And that is why Devontae Adams has kind of been like disgruntled. And I get it. And so, Rob, that's where the talk about Brady, because of his connections to owner Mark Davis,
and the coach.
potentially playing. Yes, of course, Josh McDaniels,
who was up in New England with him, right?
Won all those championships with McDaniels as the offensive coordinator. And so here was Troy Aikman, who was told TMZ he could see something like this happening.
I wouldn't rule anything out. He obviously, has a relationship with the head coach. He knows the offense. He'll keep himself in great shape. I'm a big Jimmy Garoppolo fan, so I'm really pulling for him. But I would bet that just nothing's off the table as far as, what may occur during the season or what Tom's role may be. I think he's done playing, but you just never know. Those things kind of just happen out of nowhere. You don't really predict them.
Where are you at on this?
I feel better about his comment. I do, because at first I thought it was out of pocket. And he says, I think he's done playing, because I think he's done playing too.
You just hope he's done playing.
Yeah, I do hope he's done. I'm like, enough. Can we move on to somebody else? Can we talk about somebody else, please? When somebody's around that long, Chris, it gets tiresome more than anything. But anyway.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, okay. I don't believe that that's the plan, that he's going to play just because of all those things and why he's drawn to the Raiders. I do get it. If you just, in a vacuum, when you just go connect the dots, then Tom Brady, is connecting the dots with somebody he's had a long-standing relationship with, and you could make the case or something. But I just don't see it happening.
Neither one of us, of course, have any idea. I'll just say this. Part of me hopes it happens. Because I'm Tom Brady is fun to watch. It's a good story. Now, I don't think they would win the Super Bowl or he really even be that much in the
playoff game last year.
Yeah. It's just a good story. He's he's the GOAT. So it's fun to watch. I mean, he don't have to be at his best. He wasn't bad. He threw for the third most yards in the league last year.
I want to see good football. If you remember that postseason
Well, he threw for the third most yards in the league. Then don't watch half the teams in the league. He was still better than half the quarterbacks in the league.
But that doesn't mean go look at their offense and what they did last year.
Right. They couldn't run the ball. They had one of the worst running games in history.
Tom Brady was terrible in the red zone last year. It wasn't great football. I don't care how many yards he throws.
Well, that means something. And when you throw for that many yards, when you've got
throw it in the end zone?
When you've got he threw for 25 touchdowns. More than a lot of other quarterbacks did. And he had no run game. When you have no run game, it's a lot harder to pass the football. Unless you just got a great
You enjoyed watching the Tampa Bay Bucks last year? For real.
I like the story. The drama of Tom. There's a lot of teams that aren't that exciting to watch. But Tom Brady is a good story. He's a good story. That's what I'm saying.
You know what? The Bucs
he threw for one fewer touchdown than Aaron Rodgers. I mean, so you're saying he don't throw for touchdowns. And he threw for fewer interceptions
terrible in the red zone than Aaron Rodgers. What I'm talking about.
That's fine, but that's what happens when you don't have a run game.
It was awful to watch, and I think you're romanticizing about last year.
I'm not romanticizing. I'm not saying he's my favorite quarterback to watch. I'm not saying I can name a handful of quarterbacks I'd rather watch than him. Okay. I'm just saying if Tom Brady's in the NFL next season, it's a good story. I'm intrigued. I'm interested. I'd love to see. Of course you aren't, because you hate you would have liked him to retire 15 years ago.
That would have been.
But I'm saying I would like to see him with Devontae Adams. If Josh Jacobs, assuming he signs his franchise tag, you got a run game. The offensive line was improving last year. Not that it's awesome, but it's decent. And I mean, I'm under no feeling that they would be Super Bowl contenders, but it's another storyline. I'd love to watch it.
I think you want to do is you want to see Tom Brady be carried off on a stretcher, because that's all it would be. And I'm going to give you this. This past season, the Bucs were 25th in scoring. They averaged 18.4 points, Chris.
Right.
The Bucs were 3-4 in their final 7 games, scored more than 20 points just twice, barely winning that terrible NFC South. Tom Brady had the lowest touchdown percentage, 3.4, and the second lowest yards per attempt, 6.4, and third lowest air yards per attempt, 6.5, and his career lowest QBR at 52.5. He was awful last year.
He wasn't awful. He was as good as Aaron Rodgers and arguably better. And we see all the hubbub over Aaron Rodgers
last year.
No, he wasn't. You don't throw for 276 yards a game, 25 TDs, and 9 picks. That's not awful. It's not awesome. That's for darn sure. I'm not saying that, but you're going overboard and saying awful. Now, I will say this. Ephraim brought up an interesting point. As much as I think it'd be an interesting and intriguing story to see Tom Brady play with Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs. If I'm the Raiders, and you can't guarantee these things, but if I'm the Raiders, I think Ephraim made a great point that if Garoppolo can't play, then man, you know, plan B is Caleb Williams. I mean, that's what it should be. Over Tom Brady, because obviously Brady, if he were to play, would give you about 1 year. Right? And so I would do that. But other than that, shoot, I'd be interested in seeing Brady play again.
Have fun. I would boycott any game Tom Brady's on. That's what I would
Well,
do.
how you going to cover the league boycotting games?
Easy. I'll just turn down the sound when they
How we
mention
going to talk
Brady.
about Tom Brady when you don't watch the games?
I'll watch the highlights and
Because
turn
we
down
going
the
to talk
sound.
about him if he plays. Go ahead.
I'm not interested. I'm done with Tom Brady. Go to be a managing partner of the Raiders. Go take the money from Fox in 2 years or whenever you're going to go do that. I don't even know if he will do it. It doesn't sound like he's in a rush to get into the broadcast booth. So it's very, very interesting.